Today, I would like to read you an essay about walking alone, pedaling alone, and reuniting with the self that was once lost among the crowds. Please listen to this essay that quietly offers a moment to move past loneliness, reach solitude, and finally become friends with oneself. Solitude, the time to become friends with myself. Writer, Heo Byeong-taek. At first, solitude was unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Walking alone, my footsteps sounded unnecessarily loud, and when I rode my bicycle, the sound of the pedals was unusually distinct. A stillness I had never felt among people began to seep into my body. That stillness felt less like tranquility and more like an empty space. It was a feeling that something was missing, a state where something remained to be filled. When I lived surrounded by people, being alone felt like anxiety. If a conversation died out, it was awkward. If I had no plans for the day, I felt like I had wasted it. So I moved even busier, pushing myself into even larger crowds. It was all to avoid facing the fact that I was alone. I filled my days with laughter and chatter, but strangely, I felt even emptier upon returning home. The more time I spent among others, the further away I felt from myself. Then, at some point, I stopped avoiding my time alone. The reason wasn't clear. I simply didn't want to push myself into crowds anymore. My words decreased, but my steps increased. I walked up and down the mountain trails near my house and rode my bicycle along the farm roads. I didn't set a destination. Since there was no standard for how far I had to go, there was no reason to turn back. I just went as far as my body wanted to go and stopped where it wanted to rest. When my time alone grew longer, the boundary between loneliness and solitude began to reveal itself. Loneliness made me think of someone else, but solitude made me look at my surroundings. When I was lonely, I looked for phone numbers, but when I was in solitude, the flowers blooming by the road caught my eye. I realized that the trees swaying in the wind were each making a different sound. There were more days when I parked my bike and stood for a long time just staring at the sky. During those moments, I didn't have to think about anything. When my thoughts stopped, the scenery spoke to me first. When I rode my bike far out, my body reacted first. When I was out of breath, I stopped. When I was hungry, I rested. Only then did I realize that I had lived only by the signals of my mind, indifferent to the signals of my body. My body was always honest, but I had tried not to listen to it. As I began to listen to the words of my body, my mind gradually grew quiet. Being alone was no longer a problem. Instead, the time I spent with myself became vivid. On the road, I brushed past many people. Even without speaking, there were moments when we felt each other's presence. There was warmth in a short glance of greeting, a gesture pointing the way, or a passing smile. It was okay not to talk for a long time. I began to think that solitude is not a state of pushing people away, but a state where the way we connect with the world has changed. I learned on the road that we can be sufficiently connected even without being close together. One day, while walking up and down Namsan Mountain, I met a man who lived there. People called him a beggar, but in my mind, I called him a philosopher. His clothes were greasy and shiny, his hair was tangled, and he ate leftover food with his hands, but strangely, I didn't find it uncomfortable. Rather, I felt that I was the one living while hiding so much. I asked him why he lived like this, and if the mosquitoes didn't bother him in the summer. He looked at me for a long while and said, "Do you even know what solitude is?" I don't remember what followed those words, or perhaps that single question was enough. That question stayed within me for a long time. Before I knew it, I was learning how to walk with myself rather than just how to walk alone. Even while riding my bike alone, I was not alone. The useless words clashing inside me were organized, and the unnecessary noise settled down. Solitude was not a time to endure loneliness, but a time to become friends with myself. Now solitude is no longer unfamiliar.
Even when I am alone, my heart does not easily crumble. Like the scenery I met on the road, the world is still connected to me. Today, I walk and I pedal, with a quiet heart, together with myself. That concludes the reading.